When it comes to real estate, everything matters. Whether you're a realtor, homeowner, buyer, or seller, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title is here to inform, entertain, and inspire you. Host Bill Napick from Stewart Title will talk with guests about what really matters when it comes to owning, buying, and selling real estate. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title starts right now. Here's your host, Bill Napick.
Welcome to the show. I am Bill Napick, your host today. Thank you for joining us again on this radio adventure as we go forth to entertain, inform, and even inspire. Today is an extra special show as we will talk about something that is happening all the time in the real estate transaction all over the world, probably, certainly the United States, and that is cybercrime in the real estate transaction. So today we will have guests that focus on, including an FBI agent that is in the cybercrime world every day. So we will have guests to talk about this important topic, what we can do about it, how widespread it is, and all those things. So thank you for joining us again. So whether you're listening right here in Houston, Texas, you might be in Dana Point, California, Boston, or anywhere else, thank you for joining us. But first, we've been called recently the fourth largest city. Sometimes people are even saying we are the third largest city. And here in Houston this past week, we lost an incredible visionary, a developer, and just a great man. His name is Ed Wolf. On behalf of our CEO, Matt Morris, and all of us at Stewart Title, we send our condolences to the family and friends of Ed Wolf. And this week I was with Stuart Morris Sr., who has been at Stewart Title now over 80 years and still going strong. Mr. Morris happens to be 99 years old. And I talk with Mr. Morris, and you will hear him in the next 2 minutes how he remembers Ed Wolf.
This is Stuart Morris Sr. Ed Wolf was a man who liked to stay abreast of what was going on. And although he had plans, contractors, this, that, and the other, he would come to my office and look down on his project to see how they were progressing, and in the meantime be telling me what all was going on. I think about giants like this who have built Houston. It's the giants that have laid the foundation. I think of Ed Wolf as a giant, a man who built Houston, even back to the days of the Wine Garden Realty. To think of all that he has done being part of that giant dynasty. Ed Wolf. Houston is the headquarters. Ed Wolf recognized it. He built so much to make this a greater city. No wonder it's recognized by people around the world as the center of the Western Hemisphere. Ed Wolf, we salute you. Stewart Title will miss you. The employees of Stewart know the name Ed Wolf. We've had the privilege of working with you, for you, assisting you. Ed Wolf, we at Stewart Title pay respect to you, thanking you. Ed Wolf, we salute you.
Here we go. As I said, the Cybercrime Show. This is actually show number 2 on this topic. We have Tom Carpentier. He is the president of Stewart Insurance. Tom, what an important and exciting topic to talk about.
You know it, Bill. It really is. This is a very important topic of discussion. You know, today it's obvious if you're reading the papers or watching the news that society and businesses truly have a problem when it comes to cyber threats and cyber crime. You know, as it stands, you know, cyber criminals are on the offense, looking for financial gain by, you know, triggering data breaches to obtain valuable non-public information. They are operating schemes to access people's money. It's never ending. You know, this is really, quite honestly, a compounding problem in real estate because the industry, as a general rule, you know, there are multiple parties of a transaction. There's immense amounts of non-public information that the parties are holding within the transactions, and then there's huge amounts of settlement money that are sitting there in settlement accounts. So, you know, what we have here is a a situation where this creates an attractive sandbox for these cyber criminals to play. So it continues to be something that they're always upping their offense to try to accomplish financial gains in these wrongful
schemes
ways.
are happening all
New
the time.
Schemes
We're
are
hearing.
happening every day. So within the real estate industry, we really need to, as parties of the transaction, as folks that are supporting the industry, we gotta take a pragmatic approach to truly, creating a defensive game plan to combat that offense. If the cyber criminals are continuing to up their game, then we've got to do the same thing. And our game plan really needs to be multifaceted, Bill. We have to educate and continue to bring awareness to all parties of the transaction. The organizations operating in the industry truly need to continue to look at their IT infrastructures and enhance those to help combat these threats. And then, we really need to, in addition to that, continually look at our business processes and practice to implement those things that will help reduce the likelihood of an organization or the folks in the transaction falling victim to some of these schemes. So it's really important, and today's guests are really going to help shed some light, first from an educational and awareness standpoint, but then we're going to talk about these different components. So what can be done from a process and procedure standpoint, what can be done to help enhance an IT infrastructure to reduce the likelihood of these things. And then on the back end of this, we're going to have Will Elizondo, who works on my team, that works with companies within real estate to create insurance plans that create a backstop if all these other fail-safes fail. You've got some insurance on the back end that can help support and prop up the organization or the individuals if they fall victim to these unfortunate schemes.
Indeed, a very relevant subject for all of us. And as I mentioned earlier, and you're saying right now, we have incredible guests here today that will shed light and also, as you're talking about, even help prevent problems in the future. So our first guest, a real live FBI agent, Nowell Agent. He is right here. Nowell, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Bill. Glad to be here.
Super awesome to see you. And on the subject of cybercrime, as Tom's talking about, it's really out there. And in fact, the FBI actually has a division, and you're right here in Houston helping people with cybercrime, helping us all. So let's give people perhaps an idea of the how targeted is the real estate industry in cybercrime.
Bill, the real estate industry, I would say, is one of the most heavily targeted industries for cybercrime and cyber actors. The reason for that, any industry that conducts their business using a significant amount of email, a significant amount of electronic communications going back and forth, also using wire transfers. One, the electronic communications allow cyber actors something to target, and the wire transfers allows them to get their payday, and that's what they're after. They're after money. The other thing about real estate is, and what Tom just mentioned, you have so many different sides. You have buyers, you have sellers, you have real estate agents, you have title companies, you have banks. And another thing, the construction industry is also highly targeted when it comes to a lot of these schemes. So when you have such a target-rich environment, you have so many communications, it's an area that is ripe for targeting by cyber criminals. And I will say, because cyber criminals have been so successful targeting the real estate industry, they're going to continue to target the real estate industry.
So they have a great target, they have a great prize that they're going after, and there's a lot of money there, and no doubt they've been successful apparently. So those are all reasons for them to keep going, but we need to stop them in their tracks, right? And that's what you're doing. You do it, actually.
That's right. If you're looking at cybercrime, I encourage everyone to go to the Internet Crime Complaint Center. That is letter I, letter C, number 3.gov, IC3.gov. And every year they publish the crime statistics that's reported to the FBI or complaints that come into the FBI for the year prior. And one thing you will see, year after year after year, they have been sending out this report. The number of complaints goes up and the dollar loss goes up. And it's not just small incremental numbers, it's significant and drastic.
Give us an idea when we think of we're talking cybercrime. Let's get into a little more detail as far as the schemes that these criminals used in the real estate world. How do they infiltrate that real estate transaction or the world?
Mm-hmm. So the primary scheme that these actors use targeting the real estate industry is something we call business email compromise, or BEC. So for the rest of the conversation, we speak in acronyms in the FBI. BEC. So BEC is a very sophisticated scam where the actors, they're using email or electronic communications to impersonate a business or an employee in order to fraudulently request payments or wire transfers or personal information. And to tell you how significant this is, I know for the second, if not the third year in a row, BEC loss is the single largest loss for cybercrime reported to IC3. With last year, what was reported, over 20,000 complaints and $1.2 billion in loss. And, I think that is quite significant. And within that, I think if you looked at the trends, you look at the businesses that were targeted, the real estate industry was quite significant.
And as far as if you were in the real estate world, what would be, say, the first thing that you would do in this world of many players, the title companies, the buyers, the sellers, mortgage people? What would you do to protect yourself?
There are a lot of different things that a company can do. I would start out with talking about when you receive an email and you want your wiring instructions changed, you want that payment to change, require secondary and independent verification for that payment. One of the things I say is that, we have a digital crime here. Sometimes a digital problem can be solved by an analog solution. Pick up the phone. We also tell people that's a great way to solve this, but within that, make sure you're using independent information you have. We have seen victims that have actually called to verify, but instead of using information they actually ask the bad guy for a telephone number.
And he's there to help.
And he does. He does. And
he or she.
That's right. That's right. So that will actually prevent quite a bit of that from happening. But we talk about this is called business email compromise. So protect your email. So this goes for BEC. This also goes for any cybercrime. The number one way a cyber actor is going to get into your computer network, onto your computer, onto your smartphone, is going to be through your email. Okay, so being very cautious with your email is key. The number one way that they get into your email is they steal your credentials. They get your login and password. So how do you prevent that? One, use a very, very strong password. Make it long, make it complex. Don't use things that the individual can look up on your social networking profiles. Don't use common words. If you do, change letters for numbers and make that combination. I will say this, though. We talked about the number one way they get in your computer is email. But the biggest, weakest link in your net defense is you, the person. So that is one area of risk. Even through training, even through diligence, you never can get rid of all that risk. So if you can come up with a technical solution, that's best, probably the number one and easiest way to implement, both on a professional basis or also from a technical basis, is to use two-factor authentication, where you download either something to your phone that gives you a token, a soft token, or you have a device that gives it. What that allows you to do is you have something and then you have something that the token gives you. So that way, even if they steal your login and password, they still can't get into your email account.
Very simple. Have a really good password. Let's tell people again, what are the things that, for your own passwords in your life, what are some of the things you think about? Let's say you're doing something brand new and it seems like every day we have to come up with another password. What do you think about when you design a password for yourself?
So I come up with a system. And if you will go online, there are so many really good tips to come up with unique passwords. But also, you're right, everything you have, every account you have, every login you have, you need to have a different one. So you can come up with a system. I've heard everything from think of your very favorite song and look at the chorus and use the letter for every line in that chorus, and then add some special characters that and then maybe come up with a character somewhere in there that you change for each individual website that you go to. So that way it's completely different, but it's something that you will remember.
And you said earlier, in terms of red flags, going back to the email being the door that they get into this information or begin to try to compromise the transaction, the word change. Anytime we see, then it sounds like correct me if I'm wrong, that if we're involved in a real estate transaction and emails regarding, oh, we're going to change this, we're going to change the account, that's a red flag, right?
That is a red flag. You know, when it comes to a lot of these schemes, I think I like your word change. Anytime that a change is requested, there should be a control that allows you to verify that that change is appropriate. I would also say when you're using your email, if you see changes in your email, you see emails you don't remember getting, you see emails that were open that you didn't open. If you go through and notice the rules are set up, because a lot of times the actors, if they gain access to your email, they will change rules that will automatically delete emails, or you see emails deleted that you didn't see. So anytime you see anything suspicious, you need to raise your hand, you need to tell your IT staff, and you need to remediate that. Obviously, one of the key things you got to do, you've got to change your password.
So right away, that's very important. And also when we're looking at emails, emails do a number of things. They're asking us to do things. They might be verifying things, but also just the whole look of the email. Like you're saying, sometimes they may, along the way, they may look a little different. That, too, may be a red flag.
That can be a red flag. Anytime that you see language, you know, I have bought and sold many houses over the years. When you're used to communicating back and forth with either the bank or the title company or the real estate agent, you kind of know what that communication looks like. I will say this, though. A lot of the cyber actors, even though a lot of them are located outside the United States, these are international groups that are doing it. One of the things you have to be careful of, they're getting very good at English. So some of the things you need to look for are some of those subtle changes. Maybe there's not a signature block on the email that used to be there. Another thing to watch out for, another way that another thing that they do in this scheme is instead of getting into somebody's email, they then take a company's email domain and they slightly change it. So if there's an L in there, they register an email domain or a domain that has ones in there. So it looks almost identical, but it's not. And I would tell you, any organization out there, your IT staff needs to constantly monitor and look for similar domains. And when you identify those, work to get those pulled down.
And as far as new schemes, as you are in the FBI cybercrime division, you are seeing things, I'm sure, from today versus January of this year. There have been new schemes that have come along, been modified. They're always trying to outsmart the system. Do you see new technology where they are gaining access in different ways? And give us an idea what that looks like from your perspective.
So a couple of the most I would say other prolific areas of cybercrime that an organization should be targeted by is ransomware. I mean, that's something that you see on a regular basis. And ransomware is the type of cyber attack where it can either be a nuisance or it can be catastrophic. If your system is encrypted and you do not have backups, the only way that you're going to get that information back is to pay the ransom or to start all over. And we know that we don't keep our information in filing cabinets anymore. Those are located on computer networks. So protecting that data, backing that data up is key. If you have appropriate, thorough, regular backups that are segregated from your network, so that means they cannot be encrypted in the event that you have a ransomware attack, then instead of it being catastrophic, it's a nuisance. You just have to go through the steps of restoring that data. The other thing about it is if you pay, the FBI, we don't recommend paying the ransom because one, you don't know that you're going to get your information unencrypted. Two, you don't know what potential other criminal activity that you're facilitating. Okay. And three, you embolden the actor. We were talking about BEC is so active because they're successful. And if they attack your organization, they may continue to attack you. Mm-hmm. But that being said, if your information is encrypted and there's no way to get a hold of the decryption key, sometimes the only way is either to restore from backup or to pay the ransom.
And let's tell people again what BEC is.
Business Email Compromise.
Very interesting. Let's tell people, if you were to speculate, here we are past the halfway point of the year. You've seen many things come across your desk that you've investigated. You actually make arrests, right?
Right.
So I can imagine the person that you're arresting holding a laptop, maybe not a gun, and they're like, I didn't do it. But you have all the evidence that they may have done it, right?
That's right. By the point that we get to where we're actually executing an arrest warrant on a subject, we have conducted a thorough investigation of the crime. we've gathered significant evidence that not only indicates that a crime happened, but that we have probable cause that the individual we are arresting was the one behind the keyboard that committed the crime. Cybercrime is very difficult. We've all watched the CSI shows on TV. We have to have evidence. So it's very key from an IT perspective that you've got logs, that you have those artifacts, that once we're on scene and we're talking to you as a victim, that we actually have evidence that we can go on.
And when you make the arrest on, let's say, an individual, how often is that individual just part of many people that are part of a cybercrime team, let's say, or?
Most of the crimes that we investigate, they are an organized group, and they have various levels. So we talk about these are financially motivated actors, so they have funds. So you've got the individuals who are doing the targeting. You have the individuals that are doing the collecting of the individual. How do they know where you work within a business? Well, they're researching that. They figure out a way to target you. You've got the hackers gaining access. You've got the money going to an account. So now you're getting into a money laundering network. And these money laundering networks are international. So sometimes your money may go to a domestic account and then go internationally. But we do have a significant number of schemes where when the wiring information is changed, that money goes international. And that makes things a lot more complex.
So money, like we see the TV shows, money laundering is for real, right?
It is very for real.
Okay, going back to the halfway point, what do you see as next in, say, the cybercrime world? If you were to speculate, what are the things that we should be safeguarding against as we go forward here, finishing out the year?
I think one of the terms that we use within cybersecurity is talking about using proper or good network hygiene. People have to identify that our lives every year become more digital and more technical. We all have what we call a smartphone. Okay, it's not a phone. That is actually a mobile computing device. It's a computer that has the ability to make phone calls. So if you look at all of the things that you do on a daily basis from a financial perspective or on a personal perspective on computers and on computers, laptops, tablets, and phones, we need to make sure we're doing things and taking steps to safeguard that information. That's protecting our email, having strong passwords, using antivirus and anti-malware, any type of network solution we can use with firewalls. We have to have a multi-layer approach. One of the things we know is not one. There's no one single thing that's going to work, but if we have a defense in depth, then we have a greater chance. Very nice. Now, before we close out this segment, anything else you want people to know? Listen, one of the things I would say, knowledge is power. I did mention ic3.gov. Please make sure to go there. If you have a cyber crime, especially a business email compromise, please go there in order to report it, because if it happens within 72 hours, it's over $50,000, then we have some things in place called a financial fraud kill chain that may allow those monies to be frozen. So time is of the essence. Please don't call the local FBI office first. Make sure, one, call your bank, and two, file a complaint on IC3. Also, we have a lot of people here within the financial services business. If you're in that part of real estate, go to InfraGard online. That is a FBI private sector information sharing group. Here in Houston, we have over 3,700 members, the largest chapter in the country. That's a great way to network with others and work on network security.
And again, that's called
InfraGard.gov.
That's great information.
There you go.
I mean, it's
well,
right from
awesome.
the source of folks that are dealing with this on a daily basis. Thank you.
And now we'll be back at the end of the show for a final thought. In the meantime, we're going to take a short break. Thank you for listening. Stay with us. So much more lies ahead. And we're back, covering cyber crime in the real estate world. This is our part 2 edition of that. And now, Stuart Title, we are doing great things all the time to stay ahead of cybercrime. In fact, we have our VP of Information Technology and Business Systems here right now. His name is Gennady Vishnevetsky. Gennady, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Glad to be here.
We are glad that you are on the job 24/7, because this is such an important thing, not just for the associates at Stewart, but for all our customers out there. So let's tell people from your perspective real quick what that means as you are VP of Information Technology and Business Systems.
So that means I'm responsible, myself and my team is responsible for cybersecurity within the Stewart. So we're responsible for safety of our 6,500 associates, close to 3,000 agents, and all of the operations that we perform as a part of our services.
It's a big, big job, and we are so glad that you are there. So when you think about it, what do you think, from your perspective, the greatest threat is, the greatest cyber threat that real estate brokers are facing right now?
I would say, Bill, you need to disbelieve in everything you ever known. Real estate transactions follow in conventional processes for decades. It's typically been face-to-face interaction, certified mail documents, exchange, person-to-person financial transaction. Technology make it all easy for us, but some technology we use, email, cellular technologies, was developed before we even knew how to spell security. But seriously, it is a wire fraud, or what's called also as a business email compromise, and a number tells the story. The amount of reports describing business email compromise incidents has rapidly grown from a monthly average of nearly 500 in 2016 to more than 1,100 in 2018, according to Financial Crime Enforcement Network. In July of 2018, FBI Internet Crime Unit IC3 named BEC a $12.5 billion problem that measured 136% increase from end of 2016. In 1 year between 2017 and 2018, attacks against real estate industry rose from 9 to 16%. Let me ask you this, Bill. If you had a business, $12.5 billion business, would you leave it on the table?
No, I would be very protective.
So these criminals are not going away. So we're here for a long run, and we'll have to fight them every single day.
Indeed, you are. And as far as Stewart Title, we do have 6,500 associates. We are an international company, I'd remind people. And we have been around since over 125 years, by the way. Sometimes we forget that. And we are very, very on the job as far as staying ahead, both with high-tech solutions that you are deploying all the time, and even just common sense things as well. But give us an idea, some of the things that you can tell us about that, the ways that you stay ahead and help our customers and also our associates at Stewart Title.
Sure. So we have put in place internal and external cyber defense technologies with the data analytics, very deep and enhanced data analytics. We develop internal and external threat intelligence analysis that includes the data we share with our partners and consume from a community, including FBI and other agencies that helps us with the metadata, anonymous data. We also develop internal threat intelligence based on the actual attacks we see against our environment, against our company, and just the kind of behavior we see within inside a company. So that coupled with incident response center that we build internally kind of helps us to stay ahead of the game. Well, not ahead of the game, but at least to stay current within the game. We're also expanding our tools and capability to our partners. That everything we build in Houston, for example, we expand upon our agents and help them perform their duties and use our platform and our tools in a more secure way. Ironically, it's the Discovery's channel Shark Week. We have created, last year, we have created short YouTube videos, cybersecurity videos teamed around cyber sharks. And these are short, about 2 minutes video that anyone can watch and see, what we do in the cyber, what education we do in the cyberspace. I'm very active and maintain weekly updates to a Stewart blog. Where I share different ideas and different security tips and security awareness tips to our associates and agents and anyone who wants to access the blog, as well as give some examples of tricks and tricks that our cyber criminals are using kind of to attack us. Do dissection. Sometimes I dissect the emails and show red flags and show different new techniques and tactics. We do a webinar for our agents and partners, as well as present at national conferences. Stewart also is a proud member of American Land and Title Association, which is our governing body, and we're part of their cybersecurity task force. Which is tasked with, one of the missions is the cybersecurity awareness. This is how we help our partners.
And the videos you were speaking of a minute ago, where can people see those videos?
So those are on the YouTube under Stewart channel. So if they subscribe or go to a Stewart channel, they will find these videos.
Very important stuff. And then far as advising clients, the Stewart Title clients, how do you advise people that are involved in real estate transactions to minimize any risk?
Sure. So if you can remember only two takeaway from this conversation.
That's about all I can do, but maybe one, but let's shoot for two at least.
So I would say it's a multi-factor authentication and the password manager. So let me explain. First, you'll need to set up the multi-factor authentication because with an amount of breaches, an amount of information was leaked out, including emails and the passwords in all of these breaches, the chances are that your old passwords are out there on the dark web and they've been consumed by an attackers, and now they're reused. So the multi-factor authentication, which is most of us know as a two-factor authentication, is the only thing that stays between the stolen credentials and, let's say, your bank account or your financial transaction. Most of us familiar with one of the steps is a two-step verification, and it's an SMS message. Most of us are familiar with this approach. Even if you didn't set it up purposefully, but you gave your bank your mobile phone number, when you log into your bank account online, they'll send you 6-digit SMS code.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a very good thing. So this is something you have and something you know. So something you have is your phone that receives this code, and something you know is your password, username, and a password, which is, interestingly enough, the criminals knows too, but they don't have your phone. So that is very, very, very important. So second part is many of us been reusing the passwords. And unfortunately, the criminals know how to reuse these passwords. And even if we do a little permutation, change the letter here, there, or add the year, or add the months, etc.
Add a different number at the end, like.
Yes. So attackers use automated tools that creates all of these permutations. Once they obtain one password, they run through a dictionary attacks and use typical dictionary words. This is why it's no to use the dictionary words. But also more complex password, they will run through permutations and check if your bank password works against your healthcare provider or a title company or something else.
That's scary.
It is.
To say the least.
Yes. So password managers allow you to create the unique passwords because none of us, let's be fair, none of us can memorize 200-300 passwords. Right. So the password managers will allow us to generate random unique passwords and store them safely. Now, the password managers went a long way in the last 5 to 10 years. They're very now easy to use. They're available for all level of applications.
And you've been in this world of cybersecurity for Stewart Title for quite a while. You see all kinds of things. I know you're at seminars all the time learning about the new things. But as far as trends go, when you look ahead, Gennady, what are some of the trends that you see that could be developing?
So we see a more sophisticated and more targeted phishing attacks. We see more spear phishing. So the spear phishing is a type of attacks where attacker performs due diligence, almost like a research on their victims.
Now, when you say that, that's on one individual, like a spear. We're going after one person.
That is correct. Or a small group of individuals. For example, spear phishing against the title. So the biggest difference between the spam or regular phishing is it's targeted to a broad audience. I'll give you one example. You probably have seen this. You receive email from Bank of America saying, well, we froze your account and there is something wrong with it. You need to go back and update some information. Now, if you're not a Bank of America customers, you probably will dismiss it immediately. So this sends.
But if you are, that's their opportunity for you to mess up.
That's true. But this is a wider audience, and they might hit or miss. Like me, I don't have a Bank of America. You may have it. So spear phishing is targeted. So this could be an individual or a smaller group, but in a specific industry. So for example, if this is a phishing attack that portrayed to be a financial transaction or real estate transaction, and it's targeted against our industry, it really doesn't matter. It could be against 15 associates. It's still a spear phishing attack. So we see increase in spear phishing attack, and they're getting more and more authentic. So a year ago, about this time, I would say one of the red flags would be watch for poor English, punctuations, and improperly written sentences, and so on and so forth. Now they're perfectly written because attackers inject themselves earlier in a conversation in their monitoring email thread, and they know who all participants are. The attacker knows their email address. They know. So we've seen attacks where the signature exactly copied, including our wire fraud disclaimer on the bottom. They're exactly copied by attacker, and they're sent as a part of the spear phishing email. What else we see? We see a confidential in the emails. We see a confidential, secure, protected keywords. This is a tactic where attackers try to create kind of a sense of protection and security within the document, because all of these are essentially financial transactions. We see a document attachments. We've seen document attachments with the malicious attachments for many years. Now we see more that are steered towards credentials harvesting. So there would be inside a document will be a link or a button. Then if you click, it will land you on the lookalike website for a cloud services or document repository to steal your credentials. And the last point I want to make is we see a multi-layer attacks. This is very interesting and very sophisticated, but you also have to recognize that the rewards are very great. We've seen attempts of a fraud is in subsets of millions for a financial transaction, for example, in the commercial property. So the multi-layer attacks would be something similar to a phishing email that is followed either by SMS or a telephone call, and the caller ID on both SMS and the telephone will correspond to the sender. For example, you might receive an email from a bank saying we're experiencing some trouble. We need for you to log in and validate your account, and this would be, for example, for an escrow account. Followed by a phone call or an SMS where an attacker will say, I just sent you an email, I'm calling from a bank, and your caller ID will show the bank as the caller ID. And they'll say, they'll tell you a story. We deployed some patch yesterday, and we found out that subset of our customers were broken. Now we're making individual phone calls and have customer verify to make sure they can get in our system and perform the transaction. You just received the email, just click on that email and follow the instructions. So it's getting very sophisticated. What else we see is a cyber extortion, and I want to talk about two categories. One is a sextortion and one is a pastortion. So the sextortion is where attackers, these are usually poorly written, and this would be an email saying that an attacker compromise your computer and enable your webcam and monitor you browsing some prohibited or illegal sites. And the attacker recorded your actions on this website, including your video recording, and they're extorting you for Bitcoin payments. In return, otherwise they will release all this information to your friends, co-worker, and so on and so forth. That's one of the attacks. And another one is a pastortion. It's a password extortion. Essentially, attacker will put in the subject email or in the body of the email one of your previous passwords. I'll give you one example. In a LinkedIn breach in 2012, there is about 6.5 million username and a password were leaked out that end up on the dark web. And so they will use the old password that were recovered in the previous breach to get your attention. So obviously you'll see the email, you'll recognize your password, you'll say, oh my God. And then they will put whatever text in and try to extort the money from you. This is not specifically to real estate, but we see a lot of this targeted even against our employees.
Incredible. One more time before we close this segment, let's tell people again, we're glad that you're on the job at Stewart Title for sure, but let's tell people again some of the resources we have if they want to see those videos. Just go to the YouTube channel for Stewart Title, right?
So we have, yes, YouTube for Stewart Title, and there is also blog.stewart.com. This is another very useful resource.
Super awesome. Gennady Vishnevetsky, thank you so much for being on the show. We're coming right back with even more. Stay with us, please.
Thank you, Bill.
Most people don't know that Stewart offers business, home, and auto insurance. In fact, Stewart Insurance and Risk Management has been doing that and more for over 10 years. And they partner with many leading insurance companies to offer great rates. They're a national insurance agency operating in all 50 states, delivering a broad range of insurance products. Whether you need a home insurance quote for a client's home closing or your own insurance needs, you can count on them. Call 866-845-4676. That's 866-845-4676. Stewart Insurance and Risk Management is here to help.
And we're back. As we continue talking about cybercrime, of course, we are brought to you every week by Stewart Insurance. And now we have, you heard Tom Carpentier earlier, the president of Stewart Insurance, but now Will Elizondo. He is the VP of Operations and Program Sales. Will, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Pleasure to be here.
Very quickly, let's tell people your job, your role at Stewart Insurance, what that is.
Well, my job is, I guess, being able to enjoy working with a fantastic group of people every day.
They are so great, aren't they?
I try to please them as much as I can and make sure that they have what they need in order to be able to serve our clients every day.
Super awesome. Well, let's give people an idea. As far as insurance, now you're in the insurance world. We've talked about the perils that are out there in real estate transaction and even other cyber perils and things like that. So as far as Stewart Insurance issues insurance policies, you have several providers. Let's tell people some of the policies that perhaps are ways to protect brokers and realtors out there that you have.
Absolutely. So what we feel is key for real estate professionals out in the marketplace is to design an insurance plan that is very similar to technology, where you have technology that complements you the way that you do business. The insurance policies that one puts together as part of their insurance plan should complement the way and how they're doing business. So some of the primary policies that we'd see out in the marketplace that we identify that fit most organizations would be primarily the professional liability policy, or sometimes referred to as an E&O policy. The policy that would look to respond for the professional services that are provided to their clients and or even some of their vendors or business partners. And so what's important for our listeners to keep in mind is that when they are obtaining these professional liability policies, they need to make sure that the professional liability policies are covering them for the services that they're bringing and offering out in the marketplace. Just like everyone out in the marketplace has their unique way of doing business, they want to make sure that the policy is going to respond for the way that they are providing business services to the clients and making sure that in the event that they do need the insurance, it's there for them. Some of the other policies that we also see that are significantly necessary would be a business owner's policy. And then also liability insurance for the commuting that's taking place from site to site. And then one that has really kind of risen over the past couple of years has been a need for cyber liability insurance. And the need for the cyber liability insurance is we're seeing that in our communications with real estate professionals, there's a lot of data that's being obtained. There's a lot of data that's being collected, stored, and or transferred. And so it has now kind of expanded the need to have some level of coverage for themselves for what they may look to leverage in the event that they were to fall victim to some type of online cybercrime or some type of network privacy breach. But then also in order to respond to some of the new threats, since there's quite a bit of spear phishing involved with the real estate transaction.
And all those things can be tailor-made for someone, for a company at Stewart Insurance, right?
Absolutely. It's very important for a client to take into account that insurance is not a commodity, right? Just like the real estate services that they would receive from one group to another would be different. They need to make sure that they understand that not all insurance policies are the same. So it is very important to make sure that the insurance plan and the policies truly have the coverage that they need and not so much the policies themselves.
So the things that people, as you were saying, some people need certain parts of the insurance. It has to fit to the way they're doing business and what they're doing out there.
Absolutely.
And they could find that out just by talking with someone at Stewart Insurance.
Yes, we pride ourselves in truly being what we kind of identify as subject matter experts. We make it a point to try to really understand and keep abreast of what the current trends and or industry risks are for real estate, and then also making sure that the insurance policy offerings that we have available or the ones that we have to develop with our partners are going to respond to what the current industry risks are. So just making sure that they're evolving, just like the way that the real estate professionals are evolving in the marketplace.
And give us an idea as far as the insurance companies, what are they looking for when they determine to issue a policy out in this world?
Well, a lot of it is first kind of identifying some of the unique characteristics of the applicant, right? So when somebody's applying for insurance, they want to make sure that they kind of identify what risk they're taking on. They would understand it from a class of business perspective, but they want to know kind of the uniqueness that the one applicant would bring to the table. There's some kick-out questions that may eliminate someone from being able to have coverage. So you have some situations where an insurance company would want to make sure that within their computer network, they're making sure that they're maintaining up-to-date antivirus software, making sure that they have password protection for their individual users, and then also the way that they're storing and or backing up of their data. And so we see at times that you have an opportunity a lot to obtain certain credits and or discounts when you're applying for cyber insurance. So a lot of times they show their hand in the applications. So it's very beneficial at times to go through it with your insurance professional as well as maybe your IT vendor to see some of these certain elements that could be quickly turned on that maybe someone hadn't considered, like let's say geo-IP filtering, something that could be simply turned on, or having multi-factor authentication is sometimes necessary to have certain coverage components like cybercrime coverage.
Very interesting. And if you were, say, a real estate broker yourself, what are some of the actions that the broker should be taking to prevent themselves from the cybercrime or to be on guard?
The number one thing would be the education, the awareness. So just continuing to learn, take advantage of the resources, just like this radio show where we're looking to bring some of the current trends and information, leveraging some of the tools and resources that Stewart Title is bringing out in the marketplace, really staying on top of what is occurring today, because that's really what's going to be key. We can't prevent cyber attacks from occurring, but we can look to kind of reduce some of the effects that it can have on an organization. A lot of it would be really that awareness and really communicating with your business partners that you are involved in a real estate transaction. People do business in different ways. They communicate differently. So knowing what would be the standard way of communicating and elevating that a little bit more by maybe having more of that personal touch. So that way, if you do receive some level of communication, you're able to maybe better identify whether it's going to be a legitimate communication that you need to move forward with. And a lot of it is also making sure that you continue to remind some of your team members, especially for the brokers out there, to make sure that they're having those weekly stand-up meetings, reminding individuals of current trends when they hear of a certain horror story, sharing it with individuals and kind of identifying how they're doing business and if there's something that they may need to change that could look to maybe prevent them from being a case.
And Will, as far as brokers out there, you're helping brokers of all sizes, whether they have 10 agents or even beyond, right?
Absolutely. We truly dive in to have an understanding, like I mentioned before, as to how they are doing business, who they are as an organization, in order to make sure that we do tailor an insurance plan that will look to satisfy their needs.
That sounds awesome. And Will, let's tell people also the number at Stewart Insurance in case they want to have that conversation with you.
Absolutely. So listeners out there can get a hold of our team at 866-845-4676.
One more time.
866-845-4676.
And before we close this segment, what else should people know?
Really take ownership of your insurance coverage out there. Like I said, it's not just about having policies, but it's what coverage is being provided to you with the premium dollars that you're paying for these insurance policies.
And I say have that conversation with Stewart Insurance. The phone number again is
we'll welcome having those conversations and being able to learn more about their organizations and share with them our industry knowledge, which would be at 866-845-4676.
Will Elizondo, doing incredible work every day. Thank you, Will, for being on the show. We're coming right back with even more. Well, as we wrap up the show, he's back. Tom Carpentier, Stewart Insurance. Wow, Tom, I don't know what to do. I'm not even going to turn my computer on again. We learned so much today. Incredible, right?
We did. I know the first thing I'm going to do is continue to listen to this show and remind myself of all the great information that is out there to continue to educate myself and continue to educate the industry on the game plan we all need to be working towards in terms of education, continuing to look for ways to strengthen those IT infrastructures, looking at the ways we do business from a process and procedures perspective, and then on the back end of that, make sure that we're taking a look at what our insurance plan actually would do for us if we do fall victim, even with all those precautions. So great guests, and we'll continue to talk about this subject because, as I think Gennady and our agent here talked about, it's not going away.
It's not going away. We're on top of it, sharing that information, and he is back. Now agent with the FBI Cybercrime Task Force. Now, welcome back.
Hey, Bill, and thank you so much for allowing me to come
I'm
today.
changing my password. That's all I know.
Very good. You were paying attention. But listen, knowledge is power. Stay on top of cybersecurity trends. A lot of government resources out there, ic3.gov. The FBI has public service announcements across Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, all of the social networking platforms. For those in the financial services industry, infraguard.org. Go online, see if you qualify, and apply. It's something well worth doing. If you're a victim, contact your bank immediately, initiate a recall. 2, go to ic3.gov and file a complaint immediately. And then lastly, make sure you change your passwords and two-factor authentication. That's one of the main ways you can keep them out of your email. And just to follow up, something that Will was talking about, cyber insurance is something that a lot of people we talk to are going with. We have a lot of conversations on that. If you decide to get a cyber insurance policy, absolutely do not publicize that. We have seen companies targeted because cyber actors learned that they have a cyber insurance policy and they capitalize on it.
Oh,
Thanks.
my goodness.
Great point.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for your service. He is back, Gennady Vishnevetsky, right here with Stewart Title, VP, Information Technology and Business Systems. As we close out, give us a final thought.
Slow down.
Slow down.
So most of the wire fraud is committed within the last 24 to 48 hours. Attackers know we are desperate, or sometimes we want to close we always want our transactions to be flawless. But we're always busy in the last 24 to 48 hours, and attacker banks on that. Second is, as I said before, the two takeaway is the multi-factor authentication and the password managers. It's not that hard. Many think that two-factor authentication is hard. Two good resources to keep in mind or in the back pocket is one website is a two-factor auth. It's auth.org. It has thousands and thousands of services that supports multi-factor authentication. There is also a very handy add-on available for a web browser, and it's called 2FA Notifier. It's number 2FA Notifier. You can find it in the Google Store, in the Chrome Store, or a Firefox store. And that's actually a visual that, once you visit the website that supports the multi-factor authentication, it actually will bring the pop-up and says this site supports multi-factor authentication, and go set it up.
Very nice. Incredible work. And once again, resources at Stewart Title. People can go to our YouTube page and see some things about this.
Yes, and blog.stewart.com.
Very nice. Thank you so much, and thank you for your great work, Will Elizondo. He is back, Will, with Stewart Insurance. Let's tell people a final thought or two.
Yes, well, Bill, final thought. Since there's been quite a bit of discussion shared today as it relates to some of the ongoing cyber risks out in the marketplace, if individuals are interested in getting a cyber liability insurance policy, making sure that it does have the coverage components that would provide coverage for certain incidents, right? So whether that be an extortion situation where someone is potentially looking to have your data extorted in order to have some type of payment, you could look to have coverage underneath it, like Agent Noel said, to make sure that you don't publicize it, that you do have that in place so that way you don't become even more of a target. But then also making sure that if you have certain technology platforms that you're leveraging, understanding what your exposures are there, and then making sure that the insurance policy will look to respond to what your responsibilities would be by leveraging that technology platform from a third party. And then also cybercrime. Cybercrime's a new component that a lot of insurance companies are kind of tiptoeing around. So just making sure that you evaluate the endorsement and make sure that you feel confident the coverage would apply.
And once again, people can reach out to you to find out about their insurance needs, especially on this topic at...
Yes, if everyone can please reach out to our team at 866-845-4676. Once again, 866-845-4676.
And certainly we thank you at Stewart Insurance, Tom Carpentier, John Bramlett, for putting together this stellar cast. And I'm no expert, but I'm going to add one other thing about telling people what you're doing. If you get that cybercrime insurance, don't put it on Facebook. I see it all the time. People saying, I'm going on vacation, I'm building a new house, I'm here. People tell too much on Facebook. Be a little bit more discreet, and I'm going to take Gennady's advice and slow down, get our heads out of the phones and computers, and take our time. And also, don't be sad that the show is ending at the time of broadcast, because guess what? It never really ends. You can always go to stewart.com/Houston to hear this show again and again, or any of the shows since show number 1. This is show number 287, I think. We'll be back next week. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Once again, go to stewart.com/Houston. We thank all our guests. Thank you. Now, Agent with the FBI, especially for being there, getting our back, and all the agents that may be listening, and all those in law enforcement. Gennady, thank you so much. Tom Carpentier, Will, doing super work, and John Bramlett and the team, and all of us at Stewart Title. Until next week, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. We'll see you, Stewart.com/Houston. Thank you for listening.